In January of 2004, Dubai started to dig a site which would one day hold the tallest building in the world. At this time, the tallest building in the world was the Taipei 101, with a height of about 510 meters or 1,670 feet. But Dubai's plans included raising a building that would not only surpass this height, but absolutely shatter the record at 828 meters, 62% taller than the Taipei 101. This would ensure it would become next to impossible to break the record again. It took about 5.5 years to build this behemoth, and on October 1st, 2009, the construction of the Burj Khalifa was complete. Dubai now had realized its ambitious achievement and had started its journey to become a world-renowned tourist destination. Soon after the Burj Khalifa was erected, though, many countries announced their own mega-tall structures that would be even taller than Dubai's crowning jewel, but they have all failed. It's been 13 years and the record still stands. But why is it so hard to beat this record? Moreover, how tall can we actually build? On this episode of Built a Billion, we answer that very question. Before we continue, if you love to hear about all the mega projects of the world, please subscribe to the channel and help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. It'll really help the channel out. Now back to the video. For 4,000 years, the tallest building in the world was the Great Pyramid of Giza at 145 meters, and it held this record for a very long time, until the year 1311, when the Lincoln Cathedral in England was built up to a height of 160 meters. For many years after that, structures continued to get increasingly taller, but none of these structures were skyscrapers. The world's first skyscraper didn't pop up until 1884 in Chicago, Illinois. It was the Chicago Home Insurance Building, and though it was only 55 meters, it was a major milestone in human history. This would start a race to build tall buildings in New York City and Chicago, as America was the only economy stable enough to support the technology necessary to build the big office buildings companies desired. From this race sprang the Empire State Building, which held the record as the world's tallest building from 1931 to 1971, making it the longest title holder ever. Next came the World Trade Center, Chicago's Sears Tower, and then the record moved out of the United States for the first time to Kuala Lumpur with its construction of the Petronas Towers. These gargantuan towers were 452 meters. They held the record from 1998 until 2004, when the Taipei 101 was built and reached a height of 510 meters. Then came the Burj Khalifa. Initially, when the Burj Khalifa was planned, it was supposed to reach only 550 meters, but they kept increasing the height in planning until it was as tall as we know today.
At that time, the brief for the tower was to design a tower that's 550 meters, which would have been just slightly taller than the world record holder at that time, which is Taipei 101. We learned as we got into the project that we could go higher, and after talking to the client, there was a desire to go higher and not only break the record by a little bit, but to really break it by a big margin.
Before the 1990s, Dubai was just a place for fishing and pearl diving, and boy did that change with the discovery of oil. But by the early 2000s, Dubai's leaders had a vision of diversifying its economy and making their city an international tourist destination. But in order to accomplish this, they would have to do something so incredible that it would magnetize the world's attention towards it. What better way than a $1.5 billion record-breaking tower? Construction took 12,000 workers and 100 different nationalities, 22 million man-hours to build it, and the goal of making Dubai a tourist hub was achieved. But it also became an economic center as well. All of a sudden, companies wanted their offices in Dubai, and people wanted to buy property there too. The property prices have risen so much in the downtown area that $1.5 billion has been recouped many times over. But what's so hard about beating the Burj Khalifa's record? And if someone does beat it, how tall can they build it? Let's look at some problems super tall building constructions have faced. Structures this tall have to support their weight, but when you start reaching those super tall heights, the winds get considerably stronger. The Burj Khalifa combats this with its innovative design. Looking from the top, you can see the building is in a Y shape, forming 3 wings that are supported by a hexagonal core at the center of the building. This system is known as the buttressed core, and it was invented by the Burj Khalifa structural engineer, Bill Baker. This technique was first used in South Korea's Samsung Palace 3, and engineers soon realized this technique could be used to build taller buildings. With this system, the impacts of the wind's blow can be dramatically reduced. In addition, the Burj Khalifa has 192 steel and concrete columns under it that sink 50 meters into the ground. Several buildings have been planned with the hopes of thwarting the Burj Khalifa, and 2 of those buildings are under construction. The first is the Jeddah Tower in Saudi Arabia. If constructed, it will be the first building to exceed a height of 1 kilometer and will help to diversify Saudi Arabia's oil-dependent economy. It's very similar to the design of the Burj Khalifa because both buildings have the same architect. Adrian Smith has again incorporated the genius Y-shaped design for structural integrity. The construction of the building would help erect a new district for Saudi Arabia called Jeddah Economic City. Construction started on this building in 2013, and a quarter of the building was completed by 2018 when construction was halted, and it hasn't been picked up since. Between 2017 and 2019, there was an anti-corruption purge in Saudi Arabia where the project's major investors were arrested, and then the pandemic hit, and progress has remained paused. It still remains the world's best chance at dethroning the Burj Khalifa. But there's a second project, also in Dubai, that has potential of breaking the record, and that's the Dubai Creek Tower. It's an observation tower designed by a Spanish architect and planned for between 2016 and 2018. Foundations have already been laid out, but construction stopped there. The exact height of this structure is expected to be around 838 to 1,300 meters, and though it will be taller than the Jeddah Tower, it won't fit into the category of tallest building. It's just an observation deck, like the Eiffel Tower. If these 2 buildings are never completed, are there any other contenders? These next buildings have been planned and announced, but have not started construction. There's the Mubarak Al Kabir Tower, planned in Kuwait, that would reach a supposed height of 1,001 meters tall. It would be similar to the Burj Khalifa, but for now it's just a plan. More interesting than this is Tokyo's 1.7 kilometer tall Sky Mile Tower, where 500,000 people would live. Any building this tall would face extreme challenges with the wind, which is why the tower incorporates big gaps in its design, allowing wind to flow through the building. This plan is a part of a megacity project called Next Tokyo, the Japanese government's plan to build, well, the next Tokyo. It's estimated that if construction began, it would be completed around 2045. We may not see a building that can surpass the Burj Khalifa for 25 years, but practically speaking, how tall can we actually build right now? Well, Bill Baker, the structural engineer of the Burj Khalifa, says that if we used a modified version of the buttressed core, we can build to a height of more than 2 miles high, and that it's possible to build a building more than 3 kilometers tall. This may be true, but concrete, steel, and aluminum have limits. The higher we build, the greater the force we put on the building's lower floors. Combine that with the force of the wind, and we have a problem that only can be solved by lighter and durable materials. The best candidate we have now is carbon fiber, which is stronger and lighter than steel. Then there's the limitation of the human body. Traveling 2 kilometers up by elevator would decrease air pressure and deplete oxygen levels way too fast, and an air pressure system would have to be built into the building, which could be very expensive. And this leads us to money, one of the biggest issues in building these structures in general. There's no guarantee that if an investor places millions into a project, that the area around it will boom like Dubai did. There's high risk involved, and most governments won't support these projects anyway, as they would rather allocate funds to more necessary avenues. Look at China, who recently banned the construction of any building over 500 meters. There are very few cities that have the right socio-economic elements that would make building the tallest building in the world make sense. Middle Eastern countries have the money to spend and the motive to build them, but even they have faced hurdles. For this reason, the Burj Khalifa will remain the tallest building in the world for the foreseeable future. If you like this video, please check out this video on all of the planned structures that would exceed the height of the Burj Khalifa, including one that would reach into space. Please subscribe to the channel, and thanks for visiting Built a Billion.